Absolute Batman Annual Issue 1, Daniel Warren Johnson writing an art on the main story. We'll get to the backups, but I wasn't sure if this was going to be like a very even spread thing, but no, it's very much a main story and then backups. Like 30 of the 50 pages is his stuff. Let's just get out of the way. Batman does a one-winged angel. Someone, probably Johnson, is a Kenny Omega fan. I am willing to bet.
So I don't know if we've talked about this, but when I got really into Do a Powerbomb, I went down the Daniel Warren Johnson rabbit hole, and he didn't grow up a wrestling fan. He came to it after his kid was born, and he was up doing late night feedings to give mom a break. Couldn't find anything, asked people what he should watch, and someone recommended the New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 tournament, and he was hooked. And I believe at this point, that's where Kenny was on his last hurrah. And so he became a fan of the Japanese style and has now, become more, been watching wrestling here and there because I do follow him on the socials and he'll talk about it. He's friends with Brody King, who's one of my, favorite wrestlers right now, which is really cool. And so to see the wrestling community sharing these pages this week, because Batman does the one-winged angel, and because there's a couple other, he does a full-on V-trigger here too. So
that one never clicked with me when he did it, because I'm like, it's such a it is a wrestling move.
It's a regular fight move.
Yeah, but it's such a normal thing to do. It doesn't feel like it has to be set up in the way that a wrestling move does. Yeah. Whereas the one-winged angel is very specifically, no, you get them on your shoulders, you flip them forward, you sit down. There's a whole stepped process to it. Whereas a V-trigger is just a knee to the face. Batman can do that every other issue. That wouldn't stick out as being weird.
True, but it was the pose in which it was. It was again a very Omega-esque, lean forward, theatrical type vibe. So and that's was being shared around. And was really cool.
And let's not gloss over the fact that he's doing all this to white supremacists, which just made it for he's burning down their headquarters. He's going after them. This whole story. There's a little bit of a flashback to him and his father. And his father talking about, why he does what he does and why he wants to help be a teacher and hopefully encourage people to make the right choices when they grow up. And we see here that there's this little community that's been shifted and they're all kind of living homeless, but this group of white supremacists want to get rid of them all, so they're going to attack them. And there's a whole basically running thing with this priest who helps Batman, first of all, because Batman as Bruce gets attacked when he tries to intervene with an attack in an alleyway, and this priest sort of steps in and says, no, don't hurt him, and shields him with his body. And then there's kind of the dramatic irony of this is that later on, when Batman is absolutely destroying these assholes, he comes in to kind of patch up the supremacists because that's his way. But we still get to enjoy Batman beating the absolute ever-living piss out of all these bad guys. And also, his giant construction truck is back. Feels weird to call it a Batmobile, but it's kind of the equivalent here.
For sure. The big huge utility loader type thing. And also Batman's there. He goes to this community, it seems to be on the outskirts of Gotham, to buy arms, right? Because Absolute Batman doesn't play around. He's not buying lethal rounds. The guy even says that they're less lethal, but that's why Bruce is there. And of course, as stuff starts going sideways, Bruce goes to intervene, and the guy that sold him the weapon's like, just forget about it. It doesn't involve you. Turns out, of course, he's in on it as well. So just a very gritty, weirdly down to earth kind of Batman story for all the stuff in Absolute Batman that we've seen with mind control helmets and the Bane stuff. Batman versus just a bunch of racists, very, very, and especially right now, a very fun, good read.
Yeah, and you've got this thing where the priest is recognizing some of these racists that are wearing masks and, hey, I knew you as a kid, you were much better than this, that kind of thing. It's showing you. And they even do a bit here where two cops come up and say, I can't let you bad guys do this. And then they just burst out laughing and put on masks with the bad guys. So two of these cops are also supremacists, and they're going to join in. And this guy's making this speech, and he's about to say white power, and that's when Batman comes in and just breaks his arm like it's, a twig. It just comes in and snaps a 2-page spread. Ultra, Daniel Warren Johnson, when he does action, he sometimes does these really kind of exaggerated, I don't know, physical body kind of stretching kind of thing. So you just see this
It's
like bone
very-
sticking out of his elbow.
It's very like serious Looney Tunes, right? Because the arm doesn't bend that far, but the way that he draws it, you know, to create that emphasis of the bone break, right? The arm gets stretched and the bone's protruding, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, you know, and then from there's a lot of action scenes of Batman beating the shit out of these guys, stalking them. You get the red backgrounds with the thunder and lightning behind them. It really gives it a lot of atmosphere. But again, the priest comes in and stops them from going too far. But then Batman hunts down their headquarters, and that's when he goes to get his big truck and comes storming in and pulls out a flamethrower in the preceding section. But that's not to gloss over the 2-page spread where the truck comes in, and like there's a lot of detail in this page. Like, you know, you see Batman in the driver's seat, even though it's a relatively pretty small part of the page because this truck is so mammoth in size. But yeah, whips out the flamethrower and it's a whole thing. The priest comes in to start patching up all these guys who have got burn wounds and stuff because they've just escaped this burning building. And the ending intercuts with young Bruce talking to his dad, and one of the links between the two stories is that this priest had a photograph of like protesting and trying to make the world a better place, and Bruce's dad had the same photo. Bruce is in the photo with him without the mustache, and the ending flashback reveals that was him. And the end of the story, as Bruce is saying, or Thomas is saying to Bruce, "Oh, I know you'll be good for the world too. You'll do the right things." And the last page is a full page spread of Batman, like basically crying in front of the giant truck. Like the truck's like, you know, again dominating the page. This full page spread, it feels huge, and he is just on the ground with his head and his knees sobbing because he's not really living up to what his dad wanted from him. It's got some punch to it. It feels like it fits the tone of Absolute Batman, but it feels like it's also just very cathartic to see him go hunting the bad guys. I don't know. There was a lot of good in here. I have to say.
The final few pages with what it does with the coloring too. This is the Mike Spicer, who colors a lot of Johnson's work. The stuff in the past has like this reddish magenta to it, and it goes, that same color is used for the blood on Bruce's hands. So just thematically, you know, the thought of his dad being disappointed, right? This is not who he is, but his dad will always be proud of him because he's got this strong, compassionate heart and does want to help others, right? I just thought that was a nice, tie through to the stories.
Yeah, it's this idea that, you know, this priest is doing this and he's more like his dad was as opposed to what he's become, and him sort of wrestling with that is kind of an interesting, just an interesting, like, poignant moment to end it on. I mean, you know, it's interesting to see someone else have a voice in this version of Batman, because obviously up until now it's just been Scott Snyder, it's just been his thing. But obviously this shows that there can be more, as does the backup that we're about to get to. So, no, I like this main story a lot. I thought it was a really entertaining read. And I thought the backup by James Harren, who is, again, both writer and artist, so they did like a double whammy here of like writers doing their own art. I liked half of this backup. I thought the first half with the build-up, with these villains like coming into like one of their dad's houses to hide, and they're saying, "Oh, something worse than the cops is coming for us," and they're basically just a group of villains that are scared that Batman's coming. And I thought the suspense and build-up in that half was very good. I thought once the action started, once Batman actually started to like fight them, I thought it kind of got a little bit more just generic, and I wasn't really feeling the excitement. You know, like there's the first moment where Batman's kind of hanging upside down and he grabs like the guy who comes through the door when they're waiting for him. I think that's a good moment, but I think once he's actually fighting and the chaos breaks out, I don't know if the action flows in a way that I was enjoying the fight sequence in the same way that I was in the previous story with Batman fighting all the supremacists.
Right, and these are Black Mask party animals too. So
yeah, they got the masks on. Yeah,
they have the masks on, and this is a rich kid going, you know, because he knows that his dad has, you know, this what did he have? He has weapons that they can use, you know, because dad kept them on him and stuff. So they go there, and then the dad wakes up, and at the same time they're dealing with that. Batman's on their trail. So yeah, that suspense of the first part, super, super good. And that moment you're talking about where Batman pulls him up, you could see the scratches into the floor or the wall as he's being pulled up, and it's just a real nice touch.
Yeah, they treat it like Batman's like a horror movie villain almost. Like they're talking about him coming. We've got this conflict with the dad saying, "Get out of my house," and then you cut to this page that's just silent with Batman like on the roof of the building, and there's lightning going around, and it's like the way the cape is drawn here almost looks like a big claw with all the different strands of each corner of the cape like stretching out really far. So yeah, there's definitely a real vibe that it's going for, and I really appreciate what it's doing. It's just that once the actual fight starts, right late in the issue, once the big guy starts like firing the two Uzis, like from that point on, I was kind of just a little bit going through the motions, just kind of taking it in. And then the ultimate ending, which is after everything goes down, some of the grenades go off that the dad had. The dad and the son embrace, and he's like, "Oh, you're all right, kid. You're all right," and that's the end of the story. I don't know if I necessarily felt like I cared about that much. Like I don't know if the tension between them made me like care about the reconciliation at the end, or the dad still caring about his son. I don't know. I didn't really fit quite. Like for me, it was like a horror story about Batman coming, with some tension, and then the ending kind of tried to go a bit of a different direction.
Yeah. No, I agree in that, but I will say that again with the coloring here, the yellow for the boom of the grenades going off against the purples in the blues, right? It's really striking, and then the reds of the blood because it looks like the dad caught the worst of that explosion. The coloring is really doing a lot of work, but yeah, the action that leads up to that is kind of a mess. Like there's a lot going on, and it almost doesn't know what to focus on. I wish it just kind of had hunkered on Batman against the big guy a little bit more. Yeah,
maybe too many like minions running around or something getting involved, so it was hard to maybe follow it as well. I do like the art overall though, because I agree with the coloring comment that you made, but I like how different in style this is because Johnson is not a like panels with gutters type artist, right? Everything's like filling the page, and it's a lot of like exaggerated elements and things like that. Whereas this art is like, no, there's gutters, there's panels. Most of the panels are squares and rectangles. It's a very different style, and the art itself feels a little bit more old school as a result. And it's kind of interesting seeing Absolute Batman in this style, because I would say Johnson's closer to what it usually looks like. Obviously, it looks very different from Dragata, but it's definitely a bit more closer in a modern style to that. Whereas this feels like, no, you can put Absolute Batman into like a more like kind of old school style and it would still work. It's more just about kind of how they're writing the character and how they're presenting him as this kind of scary, kind of violent monster kind of thing. So I enjoyed seeing the different style being presented here. It's just at the end of the story kind of lost me a little bit, sadly. But as a backup, not too bad though. There's kind of like another little 2-page thing at the end, which I'll admit I didn't really pay that much attention to. It's just because it's not really a story.
It's a let's learn about bats, and it's using these fun facts about bats, and it shows how they relate to Absolute Batman. So it's stuff like the fear of bats is called chiruptophobia, and it's people sharing social media of Batman running around Gotham saying stuff like, "Oh, looks like I'm staying in tonight," right? It says how they can fly up to 250 miles in a single night, and it's Batman, on the motorcycle going through town and stuff. So there's just these little type of blurbs that are about bats and how they apply to Absolute Batman, and it was a bit cutesy in a good way. I mean that as a compliment. Like for a story where we saw people boiling oil to throw on Batman, right? And grenades going off, and then Batman fighting these white supremacists doing bad things to people. It was nice to have a little cute 2-pager, relating Absolute Batman to bats. The actual animal.
Yeah. But no, I mean, honestly, fun annual. This Absolute Universe still feels so fresh. It's kind of exciting to still get more stuff in it and more voices in it. So I can't say I was mad. Because sometimes annuals can feel a little bit like a chore, like, oh, we're doing this because we have a week 5 and we need to fill it with something. And sometimes, obviously, they can turn out to be great, but sometimes it just kind of feels like filler for filler's sake. I was not displeased, particularly with the main story, but even I think the backup, while it had its faults, I still think offered something fresh on this take of Batman, which is cool. So, That's nice. And there was a heart to the first story as well, which, was kind of dealing with this idea of like compassion even for the worst people in society. As much as we were saying, oh, we enjoy the violence against the villains because, yeah, of course we are. There is kind of a, there's something that separates us from them, and we should be acknowledging that as well.
Absolutely. However, I will say the reason it feels cathartic is because of how ramped up things have got, right? Like, we're just seeing in the real world, the worst of the worst start to do this stuff. So to see this fantasy world where they can get their comeuppance,
oh yeah,
and it did. It made me, it didn't put a mirror on me. And when Bruce's dad, when Thomas is just like, no, that's, you are who you are. You have this big, compassionate heart. It definitely didn't make me feel great for enjoying watching these people get destroyed, But again, they're also filled with hate. And at a certain point, again, they deserve a comeuppance of some kind,
Yeah.
So, which again, props to Daniel Warren Johnson for being able to ride that line, right? And do that. So, really good. I would love to see what he does with other absolute characters at this too, just to see that.
Yeah, we'll see if they end up doing other. I assume they'll do other annuals at some point, but I wonder what other absolute content we'll get outside of the main absolute books. There's definitely potential, especially if they're selling well. And the fact that this annual did better than everything else that came out this week, at least going by the Kindle rankings, is quite interesting because it's like, oh, even the annual can do high numbers. So I don't think that's typically true necessarily for most books. I don't think annuals tend to be, super well, unless they really hype it up as like, oh, this is part one of the next big story arc or something like that. A piece
of something, yeah. That said, this was very hyped up amongst the internet section that I'm wrapped up in, right? People in the know were hyping up Daniel Warren Johnson on Absolute Batman, with some of the art stuff, and even Johnson himself was like, I can't believe I get to do this. So that might have helped as well because there's this general buzz around it. But yeah.
All right. What are you giving the Absolute Batman annual?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8.
I think I am going to go. I'm going to go 8.5. I really liked that first story. I was quite pleased with this as an annual.